What's going on, everybody? If you're watching this video, you've probably tried to build a custom GPT or two before in the past, but after the excitement of building something new wore off, it just sat there not doing anything. It doesn't behave like you want it to, and it's definitely not helping your team or your clients. So now you're thinking to yourself, maybe GPTs just aren't that useful. But let me tell you, it's not the tool, it's how you're building them. The truth is, more than 95% of the GPTs that are out there today are just repackaged prompts. In order to make a GPT that's actually useful, you need to do a whole lot more than just say something like, you are an award-winning strategic marketer in the configure instructions and upload a book to its knowledge base. Just like you would when training a human, you need to give the GPT clear instructions outlining exactly what you want it to do. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a framework that you can use to build GPTs that match your business processes and do real work for your team and your business. I call it the protocol method. It's the same framework that we use to build all of our custom GPTs that implement AI. And with this framework, you're going to be able to design the user experience from start to finish and map the functionality of your GPT to the specific tasks that you want it to perform. If you're new here, my name's Ian Gatsky. I'm the founder of Implement AI, and on this channel, I create videos that help business owners put AI to use in practical ways. If you're interested in that, hit the subscribe button. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Before we get into talking about the protocol method, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page as to what a custom GPT is and the different elements that go into building one, because that context will be critical once we start talking about the protocol method later on. So what is a custom GPT? A custom GPT is a purpose-built version of ChatGPT or any large language model. These GPTs are the next evolution or the amplification of AI. I'm going to create a separate video where I share my predictions about how artificial intelligence is going to continue to evolve. But in short, it's going to evolve the same way that the internet did, right? The internet went from this general tool, this generalized network that was complicated to navigate, and evolved into purpose-built apps and websites. What does that mean? So the internet, when it first launched, was this Mosaic platform or Netscape platform that was capable of doing a ton of different things, but it was extremely difficult to navigate. It wasn't super user-friendly. You had to be pretty technical or have like a skill set to be able to navigate it efficiently. And then the internet evolved from that into purpose-built apps and websites, right? You go to Amazon to buy stuff. You go to YouTube to watch videos. You go to Expedia to book travel, making the internet extremely user-friendly, easy to use, getting it to the place where it is today, where the internet is critical to almost every business and personal function in our daily lives, right? So the artificial intelligence is going to evolve the same way. Today, as of May of 2025, artificial intelligence is still largely just these general large language models that are capable of doing a ton of incredibly impressive stuff, but it's hard to get them to do any one thing extremely well, right? You need to have this skill of prompt engineering, right? Being able to ask really good questions, give it really clear instructions in order to get them to do what you want them to do, right? So custom GPTs are that next evolution, right? So right now we're in the general large language model kind of broad tool. The next evolution is purpose-built AI agents, as you may have heard them called, or custom GPTs, right, that are built to do very specific tasks extremely well. I personally believe that every business is going to have their own custom GPTs or AI agents that are trained to match their unique workflows and processes. So they're going to be even more hyper-personalized and effective for every individual because they're built specifically for them, which I think is super, super cool. So that's what custom GPTs are. You can build them on ChatGPT or on a platform like chip.ai. Then you can interface with them right there on that platform, or you can plug them into different areas in your business, whether that's your Slack workspace, your WhatsApp channel, or embed them right there on your website for your clients to engage with. A custom GPT, a simple formula for them is just you pair your custom instructions with your custom knowledge, and that will give you a custom GPT. Sorry, there was a bug flying in my face, but yeah, so that's kind of a simple definition of what a custom GPT is. Now to get into the different elements that make up the building process. So what we're looking at here is the builder view. Like if you go into ChatGPT and you want to build your own custom GPT, this is what you're going to see. So the first three sections up here at the top, and I'll say one last thing too, this builder view and these elements of the building process will be pretty consistent no matter where you're building a custom GPT. So what we're talking about here will apply if you're building on Chip or if you're building on ChatGPT or any other platform. So the first three sections here, the photo, the name, the description, all have zero impact on the functionality of your GPT, right? if you change the description, if you change the name, if you change the photo, it's not going to impact how your custom GPT behaves or what it does. So don't spend too much time beating yourself up over getting the perfect name or the perfect description, because it just doesn't have any impact on how useful your custom GPT actually is. The next section, though, this is like one of the core elements of building a custom GPT, which is your configure instructions. This is where you're going to define the overarching behavior preferences of your custom GPT, kind of where you're telling it how you want it to behave, why it exists, and then critically for the protocol method, where you're calling out the kind of natural programming protocol triggers, which we'll get into later on, right? So I break this section down into 4 subsections, or I break this element down into 4 sections. First is the purpose. So this is where you just explain to the GPT why it exists, what it helps users do. Second section is your ideal behavior, which is just a bullet point list of behavior preferences that you want the GPT to have, whether that be its tone of voice, specific actions that you want it to take, like in certain instances, right? So let's say if the user provides vague context, dig into it a little bit more, right? Don't just pass along. So that's like an example of an ideal behavior. Behaviors to avoid, such as kind of the antithesis. So ideal behavior, do this. Behavior to avoid, don't do this. And then critically for the protocol method, the 4th section is the protocol trigger section, which we'll talk about more later on in this video. One thing to note too is that in this configure instructions, you have an 8,000 character limit, right? So this is something that I was hitting my head against a wall, kind of running into constantly when I was building my custom GPTs, because I wanted to be really clear and detailed in the instructions that I was giving the GPT, but I kept running into that limit. So this constraint is kind of what led to the protocol method, kind of the innovation of the protocol method, which I'm sharing today in this video. So that's one thing to keep in mind. That character limit will vary based on the platform that you have, but I'm pretty sure that every platform where you can build custom GPTs will have some character limit. And with the protocol method, we're going to blow through any of those character limits. So critical that we follow this specific framework if we want to build useful custom GPTs. Okay. Next section here, or next element, is what is called conversation starters. And these are just recommended prompts that will be displayed to the user when they open up your custom GPT. This, for the protocol method, is going to be where we list our protocol trigger phrases for our custom GPTs. Next element is the knowledge base. This is another one of those really critical elements that's going to influence the functionality of our custom GPT, because this is where we upload the files that equip the GPT with the context that we want it to have, right? So for the protocol method, we're going to have 2 different types of files in here. First off, this is where we're going to upload all of our protocol instructions documents. And then second, any core context files, like centralized context files that we're going to call out and reference in the different protocols that we're training this custom GPT to be able to execute, right? So for example, we'll have the protocol instructions documents, and then maybe we have a book or 2 that we want the GPT to reference when doing a task, or we have a brand blueprint file that holds all of our business's brand information that we want the GPT to be aware of when helping us create a content calendar, for example. So knowledge element, super, super critical. The knowledge base is super important. Okay, next element here is the capabilities. This is basically what you want your GPT to be able to do on the platform that it's being hosted on. So this will vary depending on where you build the custom GPT. For me, I just turn all of these on is what I would recommend. If you're noticing that it's any one of these capabilities is impacting the functionality of your custom GPT negatively, just turn that one off. But as a rule of thumb, I typically almost always have these on. There was one instance where a custom GPT that I built just kept generating outputs in Canvas view on ChatGPT, and I was really annoyed by that, so I just came in, unchecked it, so I wasn't able to do that anymore. Okay, the final element here is what is called actions. This is the most advanced element of building a custom GPT, and I'm not going to get super far into or super detailed into it in this video, but because you can get a long way with just the protocol method in building custom GPTs without actions. Like, you're going to be able to get them to do a lot of useful stuff within your business or personal life. But if you want to explore actions, I will have other content about that at a later date. But what these actions do is they let your GPT retrieve information or take actions outside of ChatGPT or wherever you're hosting your custom GPT. For me, I prefer to build tools on relevance.ai and then export those tools and turn them into actions for my custom GPTs to be able to take. I just think relevance.ai is the most user-friendly platform, especially for me because I'm not a coder, so I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But relevance.ai makes it really easy to add actions to your custom GPTs. So if you're interested in doing that, I recommend checking out Relevance. I think I'll maybe have like a link in the description for that, subtle plug. But the beautiful thing about the protocol method too is that it makes stacking actions on top of your GPTs extremely straightforward, because we'll have this whole specific task that we've trained the GPT to be able to do. And then let's say it's creating a content calendar. Now we want it to export that to the Notion table. It's really easy to just add that as a final step to your protocol. So actions, this is the most advanced feature or advanced element of building a custom GPT, but is really where some magic can happen with your custom GPTs. Okay, so a lot of the common advice that you're going to hear out there when it comes to building custom GPTs is all you really need to do is generate a good prompt for the configure instructions, load up some files into the knowledge base, and boom, you're good to go, right? In my opinion, that's missing a really critical step, which is giving your GPTs clear instructions on how you want it to complete very specific tasks that you want it to be able to do. Right? In my opinion, the advice that's out there is like, okay, you just need to give your custom GPTs the core values of your business and the mission of your business, and then boom, you're going to have an employee that's ready to do exactly what you want them to do. That's not the case, right? Anybody that's in business that's had to hire people will understand when you bring somebody on, you need to be able to give them very clear instructions on how you want them to do what they do, right? So that's what the protocol method enables, right? It just kind of embodies that clear instruction mapped to very specific tasks that we've given our custom GPT to do, right? Which will all make more sense here in a minute. So what is the protocol method? The protocol method is a framework for building custom GPTs that are trained for specific roles and tasks within your business. Every protocol that a custom GPT is trained to perform just represents a specific task that it's trained to do. Every protocol will come with its own set of protocol instructions that clarify the step-by-step process that you want the GPT to follow to complete that task, and a corresponding set of protocol guidelines, which are basically behaviors that the GPT should follow when executing that task with the user. So every protocol, in addition, is going to be triggered using the protocol trigger phrase. So the user will come to the GPT. Let's say we have the create content calendar protocol is one of the protocols that our GPT is trained to do. They will just say create content calendar protocol, and that will begin the process of the GPT going through and executing that task. So these protocol trigger phrases and the protocols in general is like we're programming the behavior of our custom GPT in natural language. There is absolutely no code required in this process. We are just being extremely clear in our instructions to the GPT on how we want it to do what we want it to do. So what I want to do with you now is go through an example of how we would map the functionality of a service delivery assistant GPT for a content creation agency. This is the exact same GPT that I will share later on in the demo, and then also is the first real GPT that I ever built using the protocol method for a marketing agency that I was working with called Rockrose Productions. Shout out Rockrose. So in this example, we'll be able to show you kind of how we map the functionality, how do we come up with the protocols that we should train a GPT on, and then how those specific tasks that we want it to do turn into their own protocols later on. So let's say we have a content creation agency. Part of our service delivery or part of our offer is that we're going to design a content strategy for a client. We're going to come up with the content ideas. We're going to write video scripts. We're going to shoot the content, edit the content, publish the content for them, and then we're going to analyze the analytics to identify what's working and what's not working and adjust the content strategy accordingly, right? So this is just a basic offer for a content creation agency. So what we would do is we would look at these tasks and we would identify which of these tasks can ChatGPT help us with, help us complete, right? Maybe not do it all entirely itself, but where can we get assistance from ChatGPT within this task? Boom. So we have these four, right? So designing content strategy, coming up with content ideas, writing video scripts, and then analyzing the content to identify what's working and what's not. So these are the four tasks that within our offer, ChatGPT can help us with. So those four tasks then turn into their own protocol, right? So we're going to have the design content strategy protocol, the create content calendar protocol, the write video scripts protocol, the analytics analysis protocol, right? So we're mapping the functionality of our custom GPT to the exact service or offer that we're providing to our clients, right? So this is the service delivery assistant for a content creation agency, and this is the creative assistant GPT. So what I want to do now is I want to take you into the back end of that very same creative assistant GPT that I built for my business so that we can go through how it is built, how it's laid out, and then what it looks like on the user side. All right, so now we are in the back end of the creative assistant GPT that I built for my business, Implement AI, using the protocol method. I want to walk through each element of the GPT builder to kind of show you what it looks like to build a custom GPT using the protocol method, how the protocols are called out, and the instructions that we give to the custom GPT to follow the protocol method. So first off, we just have the logo for my business. Up here is the profile picture. The name is the Implement AI Creative Assistant GPT. My description is an AI agent trained on all of Implement AI's brand information. Utilize one of the protocols or input your prompt to begin. And you can kind of see how this is going to be displayed once to the user when they're using this GPT over here on the right. And then you'll see, obviously, first, each of the conversation starters, which are just all of the protocols or specific tasks that this GPT is trained to perform. And let's open up the configure instructions here. So you'll see, as I mentioned, those 4 sections. First, the purpose, where I clarify in detail what the purpose of this GPT is. I list out the ideal behavior that I want this GPT to have, and then the behaviors to avoid. And then finally down here at the bottom, which is the point that I really want to talk through, is this protocol trigger section, right? So right here, this is kind of where we're programming our GPT in natural language, right? Using the protocol method. This is kind of the breakthrough that I had on how I can get around those character limits in the configure instructions and really give the GPT extreme detail on how I want it to do what I want it to do. So as you can read here, each protocol that this GPT is trained on has a corresponding trigger phrase and protocol instructions documents in the knowledge section. When the user says the protocol trigger phrase or a similar command, refer to the corresponding protocol instructions document in the knowledge section, then guide the user through a step-by-step process listed there, immediately starting with step 1, yada, 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 right? So basically, when the user says this phrase, the GPT is going to go to this document and follow the step-by-step process and protocol guidelines outlined there. So when I come over here and I say create content calendar protocol, right? Or I could have clicked this conversation starter up here. It is going to this document right here, create content calendar protocol instructions, and it's following the step-by-step process that I gave the GPT there. And we'll take a look at those protocol instructions in a second. So you can see here in the knowledge base, there are all of the protocol instructions documents, and then there's this file called the Implement AI Brand Blueprint. So if we go back to the configure instructions, we can say all client-related information can be found in the file titled Implement AI Brand Blueprint in the knowledge section, which should always be referenced when generating content or insights, right? And then there's other instances in the protocol instructions where I call out, reference, and tell the GPT to reference that document. But if we look back over here, right, we said create content calendar protocol, and it said, great, we're initiating the create content calendar protocol for Implement AI. Let's begin with step 1. Right? So if we look over here at the create content calendar protocol instructions, we can see down here. So first section is the protocol guidelines, which is, again, just an overview of the purpose of the protocol, a separate set of ideal behavior that I want the GPT to have when executing this task, a separate set of behaviors to avoid, and then another section of important context that I want the GPT to have, right? So client brand blueprint is the source of truth, right? So that's the protocol guidelines, the first section of the protocol instructions. But the real magic is when we come down here to the step-by-step process, where, as you can see, step 1, initial client overview and confirmation, right? So we give the GPT clear objective of the step. We give it a message template to use for this step, and then we give it a numbered list of actions that we want it to take in this step. So if we read these instructions, right? Okay, so the objective is to ensure that the custom GPT has up-to-date client information from the client brand blueprint in the knowledge center before creating the content calendar. So if we go back over here, that's exactly what it did in step 1, right? So here's your target audience, here are the types of content that you create, here's your weekly content schedule, here are your goals, are there any changes that you want to make, right? So it's just confirming that it has accurate information about my brand. Then step 2 is it's going to draft a 1-week content calendar, and step 3 is draft the full 1-month content calendar. So if we go back over here, if I reviewed this and all of this looks good, I would just say proceed, and then it would go about generating the 1-week content calendar, right? As you can see here, right? And I've given it very clear instructions on how I want it to generate it, right? So it's going to have Format the 1 week content calendar in an easy to read structured table, including the week, day, post name, post type, description, caption, hashtags, right? So all of this is fully customizable, like how you want the GPT to execute the task that you train it to do is completely customizable using these protocol instructions documents, right? Using the protocol method. So I could change this to whatever step-by-step process I want. I could give it a different message template. I could have it format a table in a different way. But training your custom GPTs and building your custom GPTs this way is what is going to unlock the value that these tools can really provide for your business, because you're giving them clear instructions on how you want them to do very specific tasks that you're training them to do. I'm sure I've beat that point to death, but that's really like the core thing that I want you to take away from this. So going back here, right? So step 2 is 1 week content calendar. I would review these content ideas. If everything looked good, again, I would just say proceed, and then it would go ahead and generate a full 1 month content calendar, right? So boom, we created a 1 month content calendar using our custom GPT after a total of 6 words, right? So we didn't have to give it a huge prompt because we did all the training on and telling the GPT how we wanted it to do what we wanted it to do early on in the build process, right? So we have an entire 1 month content calendar complete with all of these different elements in 6 words, right? So that's the magic of this. And to give you some insight into what the brand blueprint looks like, right? This is just a file that holds all of my business's brand information so that the GPT is aware and is generating content ideas that are aligned with my business. So cool. Hopefully that gave you some more insight. And there are no actions that I've added to this Creative Assistant GPT yet. So this is just everything without any code, just really clear and detailed instructions to the GPT for how I wanted it to do what I wanted it to do. And that's for each of these different protocols, right? The create content calendar, analytics analysis, content remix, carousel ad, etc. So cool. Let's get back to the presentation where we'll wrap this thing up. To wrap up this video, I want to take you through just a quick step-by-step process for how you build a GPT using the protocol method. I actually created a separate 20-minute video that walks through in detail, step-by-step, how to do this. So you can click the link above if you want to just skip this and go right to that. But there's also a resource that I'm going to share with you at the end of this video, so maybe stick around for that too. But okay, so building a custom GPT using the protocol method, the first step is you're going to create what I call a blueprint. This is where you're going to define the purpose of the GPT, list all of the protocols that you're going to train this GPT on, or the specific tasks that you want it to be able to do, and then outline the knowledge base. So what context does this GPT need to have in order to do the task that I want it to be able to do? So once you have that blueprint or that plan in place, then you're going to go ahead and write the instructions for each protocol. So that document that I showed you, you're going to create one of those documents for every single one of the protocols that you want this GPT to be able to do, which consists of the protocol guidelines and the step-by-step instructions. That is the most time-consuming and challenging part. But once you're through that, it's all pretty easy from there. Next thing you're going to do is write those configure instructions, right? So the overarching behavior of how you want the GPT to act in all instances with the user, and then those protocol trigger phrases. After that, then you're going to come up with the branding and customization, right? So the name, the photo, the description. You're going to check all of the boxes for the capabilities or adjust that to your preferences. And then the last step, you're going to get your GPT launched. You're going to test it, get it in the hands of other people to get their feedback, refine it, make it better, and just start using it and plug it into your business. So like I mentioned, there's a resource that I'm going to share. I built a GPT that will actually walk you through the process of building custom GPTs using the protocol method. So I just took my entire process for building custom GPTs using the protocol method, trained a GPT to be able to walk users through doing that. So I will share the link to that in a second. But before we go, just a quick recap. Custom GPTs are the future of artificial intelligence. Custom GPTs are AI agents, right? These tools that are built for very specific tasks and are purpose-built for very specific things, right? Those are the future of AI. And the protocol method is a proven framework to building custom GPTs that actually work, because you give them extremely clear and detailed instructions on how you want them to do what you do. And it doesn't require any code, right? So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, every protocol that you build a custom GPT on represents a specific task that you want that GPT to perform, and will come with its own set of instructions where you provide the detail needed in order to get the GPT to actually work. Okay, so as promised, you can scan the QR code here if you're watching on your television. Hello, I'm on the big screen. Mama, we made it. But otherwise, if you're just watching this on your computer or on your phone, there's going to be a link in the description. So you don't have to scan this QR code. But that's going to give you access to a PDF document that I made that outlines the first 3 GPTs that you should build in your business. It's going to give you access. It's going to share the link to the Custom GPT Builder tool. So that's the GPT that I built that's going to walk you through the process of building your own custom GPTs using the protocol method. And then it's also going to link another video on my channel where I walk you through step by step the building process. I walk you through the building process step by step. So if you get that, if you go click that link, you're going to have everything that you need to take action. So now's the time. So go ahead, build your own custom GPTs using the protocol method. I'm so excited to see what you can create. If you got value out of this video, leave a like, subscribe, share it with a friend. Really grateful for you all. Your support means the world, and it helps me out a bunch. So thank you very much.